Elon Musk saves Jeff Bezos from earthquake. The sprawling city skyline glittered under the mid-morning sun, the glass towers reflecting beams of light that danced across the busy streets below. It was a day of anticipation, as some of the world's most powerful minds in technology and business gathered for the Global Innovation Summit. Inside the towering conference center, the air buzzed with energy as attendees mingled, exchanged ideas, and competed to outdo one another in conversations about cutting-edge advancements. Elon Musk stood at the edge of the conference floor, dressed in a sleek black suit that reflected his bold and futuristic persona. He wasn't particularly fond of these types of events, but he knew they were necessary for building alliances, showcasing SpaceX's latest projects, and subtly reminding everyone that he was a step ahead of the competition. Across the room, Jeff Bezos stood in a huddle of high-powered executives, his polished bald head glinting under the overhead lights. He exuded his usual confidence, gesturing animatedly as he discussed Amazon's latest ventures into artificial intelligence and automation. His booming laugh occasionally echoed across the room, drawing attention as if to reinforce his dominance in the room. Elon caught sight of Jeff and narrowed his eyes ever so slightly. The rivalry between the two was well documented, and while they maintained a veneer of professionalism in public, their competitive streaks often spilled into passive-aggressive jabs and ambitious one-upmanship. Elon smirked to himself. Let him have his moment, he thought. He doesn't even know what I'm unveiling next month. The conference proceeded with predictable pomp, as speaker after speaker took to the stage to present visions of the future. As lunchtime approached, the attendees filed into a grand dining hall, where the rivalry between Elon and Jeff was once again on display. Their respective entourages occupied tables at opposite ends of the room, each group trying to outshine the other with their animated discussions and subtle displays of wealth and innovation. Unbeknownst to the powerful figures in the room, the ground beneath the city had been restless for weeks. Minor tremors had gone unnoticed, dismissed as inconsequential by residents and experts alike. But deep within the earth, tectonic forces were gathering strength, preparing to unleash a fury that would turn the glittering metropolis into a scene of chaos. It began with a faint vibration, almost imperceptible amidst the clinking of silverware and hum of conversation. Elon felt it first, a subtle shiver underfoot that made him glance around curiously. Did anyone else feel that? He asked his table, his tone casual but inquisitive. Across the room, Jeff froze mid-laugh as his hand on the table registered the same vibration. His sharp eyes darted to the chandelier overhead, which swayed ever so slightly. He frowned. This doesn't feel right, he murmured to his colleagues, his voice low. Before anyone could respond, the vibrations intensified, escalating into a violent rumble that sent plates and glasses crashing to the floor. The chandelier swung wildly, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to heave and roll like a living creature. Panic erupted as screams filled the room. Tables overturned, people stumbled, and the walls groaned ominously under the strain. Earthquake, someone shouted, their voice barely audible over the cacophony of shattering glass and collapsing furniture. The warning triggered a stampede as attendees scrambled to escape the dining hall, pushing and shoving in their desperation to reach safety. Elon acted quickly, his mind racing as he calculated the safest path out of the chaos. Stay low and keep moving, he barked at his team, leading them toward a nearby exit. His sharp instincts and calm demeanor steadied those around him, but even he couldn't shake the growing dread as the tremors continued to intensify. On the other side of the room, Jeff found himself separated from his group, trapped near a section of the wall that had begun to crumble. Dust and debris filled the air, making it difficult to see or breathe. He ducked under a sturdy table, shielding his head as chunks of plaster and concrete rained down around him. For the first time in years, he felt utterly powerless, a sharp contrast to the control he wielded in boardrooms and on the global stage. Outside the conference center, the city was a scene of devastation. Skyscrapers swayed precariously, their glass facades shattering and raining down like deadly confetti. Streets buckled and split open, swallowing cars and sending pedestrians sprawling. Fires erupted from ruptured gas lines, and the wail of sirens mixed with the cries of the injured and terrified. Amidst the chaos, Elon emerged from the building, his mind already shifting into problem-solving mode. He assessed the situation with cold precision, his gaze scanning the destruction for signs of danger and opportunity. His SpaceX team had recently developed a prototype jetpack for emergency rescues, and while it hadn't yet been tested in a real-life crisis, this was as real as it got. "Elon, what are you doing?" one of his colleagues shouted as Elon sprinted toward the SpaceX vehicle parked nearby. "We need to find shelter." "I'm not running," Elon replied, his voice steady but resolute. "We've got the tools to help people, and I'm going to use them." He opened the back of the vehicle, revealing the sleek jetpack prototype. Strapping it on with practiced ease, he activated the controls, feeling a surge of power as the device hummed to life. The jetpack's lightweight design and advanced propulsion system allowed for precise maneuverability, making it ideal for navigating the chaotic urban landscape. As Elon lifted off the ground, he caught sight of the collapsing conference center. His jaw tightened as he realized that not everyone had made it out. There are still people trapped in there, he thought, including Jeff. Inside the conference center, Jeff was in dire straits. The tremors had subsided briefly, but aftershocks threatened to bring down what little remained of the structure. Pinned under a heavy beam, he struggled to free himself, his breaths shallow and labored. Dust coated his suit, and blood trickled from a gash on his forehead. For the first time in his life, Jeff felt the crushing weight of his own mortality. All his power, his wealth, and his achievements meant nothing in the face of nature's unrelenting fury. He thought about his family, his empire, and the legacy he had spent decades building. And then, unexpectedly, he thought about Elon. The rivalry between them had always been a driving force, a source of motivation and competition that pushed them both to innovate and excel. But in this moment, stranded and vulnerable, Jeff realized how petty their squabbles seemed in the grand scheme of things. What's the point of being the richest man in the world if you don't make the world better for others? He wondered. A deafening crack jolted him back to the present. The ceiling above him sagged dangerously, and he braced himself for the inevitable collapse. Just as he closed his eyes, resigning himself to his fate, a roar of propulsion filled the air. Elon descended into the wreckage, his jetpack allowing him to navigate the treacherous terrain with ease. His helmet's built-in scanner detected Jeff's heat signature beneath the rubble, and he zeroed in on the location. "Bezos!" Elon shouted, his voice amplified by the jetpack's communication system. "Hold on. I'm coming for you." Jeff's eyes snapped open at the sound of Elon's voice. For a moment, he thought he was hallucinating. But then, through the haze of dust, he saw Elon's unmistakable silhouette descending like a futuristic superhero. "Elon?" Jeff croaked, his voice weak but incredulous. "What are you doing here?" "Saving your ass," Elon replied tersely. "Don't move. I've got this." Using the jetpack's mechanical arms, Elon carefully lifted the beam off Jeff's legs, his movements precise and efficient. He assessed Jeff's injuries quickly, noting the bruising and shallow cuts but nothing immediately life-threatening. "We need to get out of here," Elon said. "Can you stand?" Jeff shook his head, wincing in pain. "Not without help." Elon didn't hesitate. He adjusted the jetpack settings, extending its harness to secure Jeff against his chest. "Hold on tight," he instructed. "This is going to be rough." With a burst of propulsion, they lifted off the ground, weaving through the crumbling ruins as aftershocks shook the building. Debris rained down around them, but Elon's quick reflexes and the jetpack's advanced navigation system kept them just ahead of the destruction. As they emerged into the open air, the city unfolded before them, a landscape of chaos and resilience. For the first time, Jeff saw the world from Elon's perspective, both literally and figuratively. Suspended in the air, cradled by technology that represented the pinnacle of human ingenuity, he felt a glimmer of hope amidst the devastation. As Elon Musk's jetpack propelled them out of the crumbling remains of the conference center, the cityscape stretched before them, a harrowing mix of devastation and resilience. Smoke billowed from shattered buildings, fires raged in pockets across the city, and the wail of sirens mixed with the cries of those calling out for help. The ground below was a chaotic web of broken streets, overturned vehicles, and debris scattered as far as the eye could see. Jeff Bezos clung to Elon's harness, his mind racing as he tried to process what had just happened. One moment he was certain he wouldn't survive, crushed beneath the weight of rubble. The next, he was being whisked through the air by his fiercest rival, the man he had often dismissed as overly dramatic and self-aggrandizing. Now, staring down at the destruction, Jeff felt an uncharacteristic pang of humility and gratitude. "Hey," Jeff managed to say, his voice hoarse. "But I don't know what to say. Thanks for coming back for me." Elon didn't respond immediately, his focus fixed on navigating the jetpack through the unstable air currents and dodging debris. When they reached a clear stretch of ground away from the immediate danger, he gently landed, detaching the harness and setting Jeff down with care. "Don't mention it," Elon said curtly, brushing off the dust from his black suit. "Literally. I don't need the headlines saying, 'Elon saves Jeff.' I'll never hear the end of it." Jeff couldn't help but laugh, despite the situation. "Still got to keep your brand intact, huh?" Elon smirked. "Always." The two men took a moment to catch their breath. A nearby group of emergency responders rushed over, quickly assessing Jeff's injuries and offering him a water bottle. As they worked to stabilize him, Elon stepped aside, scanning the area and taking in the enormity of the disaster. The earthquake had turned the once bustling city into a disaster zone. Hundreds of people were stranded, injured, or missing, and the overwhelmed emergency crews were struggling to keep up. Elon's mind churned, already formulating ideas for how his resources could be mobilized to help. "We can't just sit around waiting for rescue teams to handle this," Elon muttered to himself. He turned back to Jeff, who was now sitting upright with a bandage on his forehead. "How bad are you?" Elon asked. "I'll live," Jeff replied. He paused, glancing around at the chaos. "But a lot of people won't if we don't do something." For the first time, the two rivals locked eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. This wasn't the time for competition or ego. The stakes were too high. "You still have that fancy prototype," Jeff said, nodding toward the jetpack. "Think it can help more than just me?" Elon's lips quirked into a small grin. "Oh, you have no idea." Within minutes, Elon was airborne again, his jetpack humming as he soared over the devastated city. Jeff, despite his injuries, took it upon himself to coordinate with local authorities and emergency responders, using his Amazon logistics network to redirect drones, delivery vehicles, and warehouses full of supplies to the areas that needed them most. Elon's jetpack became an indispensable tool for reaching places that were inaccessible by traditional rescue methods. He pulled people from collapsed buildings, delivered medical supplies to makeshift triage centers, and even used the jetpack's powerful spotlights to guide emergency crews through the thick haze of dust and smoke. Each rescue was a race against time, and Elon felt the weight of every life he saved and those he couldn't. As the hours wore on, exhaustion began to set in, but he pushed through, driven by a singular purpose. Meanwhile, Jeff's efforts on the ground were nothing short of remarkable. Though he was physically limited, his strategic mind was in overdrive. He worked with tech teams to deploy Amazon drones equipped with thermal cameras to locate survivors. He contacted warehouses to repurpose delivery trucks into ambulances. And in an uncharacteristic move, he instructed his PR team to refrain from publicizing his contributions, insisting that the focus remain on saving lives. As night fell, the city was illuminated by the glow of emergency lights and the occasional burst of fire. Elon returned to the makeshift command center Jeff had set up in the remnants of a community center. His face was streaked with dirt, and his normally sharp gaze was clouded with fatigue. "Got the Johnson family out of a building near 5th Street, Elon reported, his voice hoarse. "They were trapped under a stairwell. 2 kids, both okay?" Jeff nodded, his expression grim but determined. "Good work. We've got drones scanning the industrial district now. There's a factory that might have people trapped inside. Think you can make one more run?" Elon hesitated, glancing at the jetpack. Its power reserves were nearly depleted, and he knew he was reaching his physical limit. But when he looked at Jeff, he saw the same exhaustion mirrored in his rival's eyes, and he realized that they were both pushing themselves beyond their limits for the same reason. "I'll make it," Elon said finally, strapping the jetpack back on. "But after this, you owe me a steak dinner." Jeff managed a weak laugh. Deal. As long as it's Wagyu. The final mission of the night was the most perilous yet. The factory Jeff had mentioned was on the verge of collapse, its structure weakened by aftershocks. Inside, a group of workers was huddled together, their only source of light a flickering emergency lamp. Elon arrived just as another tremor shook the building, sending chunks of concrete crashing to the floor. He used the jetpack's grappling arm to clear a path, shouting over the noise to guide the workers to safety. One by one, they followed his instructions, their eyes wide with fear and gratitude. The last worker, an older man with a limp, stumbled as a beam came crashing down in front of him. Without hesitation, Elon surged forward, grabbing the man and lifting him off the ground. The jetpack strained under the weight, but it held steady as Elon maneuvered them out of the collapsing building. When they reached safety, the man clung to Elon's arm, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he whispered. "You saved my life." Elon nodded, too exhausted to speak, but the man's gratitude was all the validation he needed. By the time dawn broke, the immediate crisis had begun to stabilize. Rescue teams, bolstered by Elon's and Jeff's efforts, had reached many of the city's hardest-hit areas. Survivors were being cared for, and plans were underway to rebuild. Elon and Jeff found themselves standing side by side, surveying the aftermath. Their suits were tattered, their faces etched with fatigue, but there was a quiet pride in their expressions. "We did good," Jeff said, breaking the silence. Elon smirked. "Yeah, we did. For once, we actually worked together." Jeff chuckled, shaking his head. "I hate to admit it, but I think you might have saved my life back there." "Don't get used to it," Elon quipped. "Next time, you're on your own." Jeff laughed, but there was a sincerity in his eyes as he extended a hand. "Seriously though. Thank you." Elon hesitated for a moment, then shook Jeff's hand firmly. "Don't mention it. Just promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Next time we're at one of these conferences, let's focus on collaboration instead of competition." Jeff raised an eyebrow. "You mean like working together on disaster relief initiatives?" Elon nodded. "Exactly. Between your logistics empire and my tech, we could make a real difference." Jeff considered this, then smiled. "Deal. But only if I get top billing." Elon rolled his eyes, but the hint of a smile played on his lips. "You're impossible. And you wouldn't have it any other way." As the sun rose higher, casting its warm light over the recovering city, the two rivals turned allies began to plan their next steps. Together, they had faced the unimaginable and emerged stronger, not just as individuals, but as partners in a new mission to use their resources and influence for the greater good. The earthquake had shaken more than just the ground beneath their feet. It had shaken their perspectives, forcing them to see beyond their rivalry and recognize the power of unity. And though their paths might diverge again, they both knew that this moment would define them forever. The devastation caused by the earthquake left scars that would take years to heal, but amidst the chaos, stories of heroism and resilience began to emerge. Chief among them was the unprecedented collaboration between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. What started as a life-saving rescue had blossomed into something far greater, a partnership that would reshape the way disasters were addressed on a global scale. In the weeks following the earthquake, both Elon and Jeff threw themselves into recovery efforts. They leveraged their immense resources to coordinate relief operations, rebuild critical infrastructure, and provide aid to those who had lost everything. For the first time in years, their names appeared together in headlines, not as rivals, but as allies united by a common purpose. At a press conference held in the heart of the disaster zone, Elon and Jeff stood side by side, their typically confident personas tempered by the gravity of the moment. The crowd of reporters and onlookers buzzed with anticipation, eager to hear what the two titans of industry had to say. Jeff stepped up to the podium first, his voice steady as he addressed the audience. The events of the past weeks have been a stark reminder of how fragile our world can be. No amount of wealth or power can shield us from the forces of nature. But what we can do, what we must do, is use the resources we have to help those in need. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. This is not about competition or ego. It's about collaboration. About recognizing that when we come together, We can accomplish far more than we ever could alone." The applause that followed was warm and genuine, a reflection of the respect Jeff's words had earned. He stepped back, nodding to Elon, who took his place at the podium. Elon's expression was thoughtful as he began to speak. "When the earthquake hit, I was reminded of something I've always believed, that technology, at its best, is a tool for saving lives. But technology alone isn't enough. It takes people, visionaries, leaders, and everyday heroes to put it to use." He glanced at Jeff, a hint of a smile on his face. "Over the past few weeks, I've seen what's possible when we set aside our differences and work together. And I've realized that our rivalry, while it may have pushed us to innovate, has also held us back in ways we didn't see." The crowd murmured in surprise at Elon's candor, but his next words silenced them. "That changes today. Jeff and I are proud to announce the formation of the Global Disaster Relief Alliance, a joint initiative that will combine the strengths of our companies and our teams to address natural disasters around the world." The audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the city streets. The sight of Elon and Jeff standing united, two of the most competitive figures in modern history, was nothing short of historic. The Global Disaster Relief Alliance, GDRA, quickly became a beacon of hope for communities facing crises. Its mission was ambitious: to develop cutting-edge technology for disaster prediction and response, provide rapid deployment of resources to affected areas, and empower local leaders to build resilience in their communities. Elon's SpaceX contributed advanced drone technology and satellite systems that allowed for real-time monitoring of disaster zones. His team also began developing modular shelters that could be deployed within hours, providing safe havens for displaced families. Meanwhile, Jeff's Amazon network offered unparalleled logistics capabilities, ensuring that supplies could reach even the most remote areas. His warehouses were repurposed as emergency distribution centers, and his fleet of delivery drones was outfitted with medical supplies, food, and water. Together, the GDRA launched initiatives that revolutionized disaster relief. One of their first projects was the deployment of autonomous search and rescue robots equipped with AI to navigate rubble and locate survivors. The robots, nicknamed rescuers, became a symbol of hope, their blinking lights and friendly design providing comfort to those they saved. For Elon and Jeff, the partnership wasn't without its challenges. Their strong personalities and differing approaches to problem-solving often led to heated debates during strategy meetings. Elon's preference for rapid prototyping and risk-taking clashed with Jeff's meticulous planning and focus on scalability. One such disagreement occurred during a meeting about expanding the GDRA's operations to include wildfire prevention. Elon proposed using satellite-mounted lasers to create controlled burns and clear vegetation, a concept that Jeff deemed impractical and potentially dangerous. "It's not about being practical," Elon argued, his tone sharp. "It's about thinking big. If we always play it safe, we'll never solve the real problems." Jeff crossed his arms, his expression unyielding. "And if we act recklessly, we'll create new problems. We need solutions that are sustainable, not just flashy." The room fell silent as the two men stared each other down, the tension palpable. But then, to everyone's surprise, Elon sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Okay," he said, his voice softer. "Let's hear your idea." Jeff raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard. He took a deep breath before outlining a plan to use AI-powered drones to monitor forests and predict fire risks. By the end of the meeting, both men had reached a compromise, agreeing to test both approaches in controlled environments. The exchange marked a turning point in their partnership. While their differences remained, they began to see them as strengths rather than obstacles. Each brought a unique perspective to the table, and together, they found solutions neither could have achieved alone. As the GDRA's impact grew, so did its influence. Governments around the world sought their expertise, and the alliance became a model for public-private collaboration. Communities that had once been devastated by disasters began to rebuild stronger and more resilient than before. One such community was the city where the earthquake had first brought Elon and Jeff together. With funding and resources from the GDRA, the city was transformed into a hub of innovation, its infrastructure rebuilt to withstand future quakes. The conference center, now renamed the Resilience Center, hosted annual summits on disaster preparedness, drawing leaders and experts from every corner of the globe. At the first summit held in the new center, Elon and Jeff took the stage together once more. This time, their rivalry was replaced by a genuine camaraderie, forged through shared purpose and mutual respect. "We started this journey because of a disaster," Jeff said, his voice steady. "But what we've built is a testament to what's possible when we come together. The challenges we face are immense, but so is our capacity to overcome them." Elon nodded, adding, "This isn't just about technology or logistics. It's about people, about empowering them to lead, to innovate, and to make a difference. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the greatest breakthroughs come from collaboration." The applause that followed was thunderous, a reflection of the hope and inspiration the two men had brought to the world. In the years that followed, the GDRA became a global institution, its work saving countless lives and transforming communities. Elon and Jeff, once defined by their rivalry, were now celebrated as visionaries who had harnessed their influence for the greater good. Their story became a symbol of what humanity could achieve when ego was set aside in favor of collaboration. And though they continued to tease each other about their differences, Elon's boldness, Jeff's precision, their bond remained unshakable. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of a GDRA research facility overlooking a lush forest, Jeff turned to Elon with a rare moment of vulnerability. "You know," Jeff said, "I used to think competition was the only way to succeed. That being the best meant never showing weakness, never asking for help." Elon glanced at him, a small smile playing on his lips. "And now?" Jeff looked out at the horizon, where the setting sun painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Now I realize that the greatest strength comes from working together. From building something bigger than yourself." Elon nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "Funny. I used to think you were just a guy obsessed with selling books." Jeff chuckled, shaking his head. "And I thought you were just a guy obsessed with rockets?" They sat in companionable silence, the weight of their shared journey settling over them like a warm blanket. For all their differences, they had found common ground in their desire to leave the world better than they had found it. And in that moment, as the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky, they knew that their partnership, born from disaster, forged through adversity, and sustained by a shared vision, was the greatest achievement of their lives. The Global Disaster Relief Alliance, GDRA, was no longer just a fledgling initiative. It had grown into a powerhouse organization reshaping how the world responded to disasters. Its combination of cutting-edge technology, logistics mastery, and strategic partnerships had set a new standard for humanitarian efforts. But with its success came new challenges, and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos found themselves navigating an increasingly complex landscape. The GDRA's growing influence attracted the attention of governments and international organizations, some of whom were eager to collaborate, while others were wary of the unprecedented power wielded by two private individuals. Critics questioned whether two billionaires, no matter how innovative, should hold such sway over global disaster response efforts. Elon, as always, dismissed the criticism with his trademark bluntness. "If governments were doing their jobs, we wouldn't need to step in," he told reporters at a press conference. "We're not here to play politics. We're here to save lives." Jeff, ever the strategist, took a more measured approach. "Our goal is to complement, not replace, existing systems," he said during a television interview. "We believe that by working together with governments and NGOs, we can create a more effective and equitable response to crises." Their contrasting styles created occasional friction, but it also allowed the GDRA to address challenges from multiple angles. Elon's boldness pushed the boundaries of what was possible, while Jeff's pragmatism ensured that their initiatives were sustainable and scalable. One of the GDRA's most ambitious projects was the development of resilience hubs, state-of-the-art facilities designed to serve as command centers and safe havens during disasters. Each hub was equipped with renewable energy sources, advanced communication systems, and stockpiles of emergency supplies. They also doubled as community centers during non-crisis periods, providing education, training, and resources to empower local residents. The first resilience hub was built in the city where Elon had rescued Jeff during the earthquake. It stood as a symbol of hope and renewal, its sleek, futuristic design a testament to the innovation and collaboration that had made it possible. At the grand opening ceremony, Elon and Jeff stood side by side, addressing a crowd of local residents, government officials, and international dignitaries. The atmosphere was electric, a mix of celebration and anticipation. Jeff spoke first, his tone measured and reflective. This hub represents more than just a building. It represents a commitment to resilience, to ensuring that no community is left vulnerable in the face of disaster. This is just the beginning. Elon stepped forward, his characteristic energy evident in his voice. We didn't build this hub for ourselves. We built it for you, for the people who live here, who work here, who call this place home. And we're not stopping here. The goal is to create a global network of these hubs, so that no matter where disaster strikes, people will have the tools they need to survive and rebuild. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the city streets. For the residents who had lived through the earthquake, the hub was more than just a structure. It was a promise that they would never be forgotten. Behind the scenes, the partnership between Elon and Jeff continued to evolve. Their shared mission had forged a bond that neither could have predicted, but their differing approaches still led to moments of tension. During a meeting to discuss the next phase of the Resilience Hub project, Elon proposed integrating SpaceX's Starlink satellites into the hubs to provide high-speed internet access in even the most remote areas. Jeff, while supportive of the idea, raised concerns about the cost and logistical challenges. We need to prioritize what's essential, Jeff said, his tone firm. Connectivity is important, but food, water, and shelter come first. Elon leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed. Connectivity is essential. It's not just about the internet. It's about communication, coordination, education. Without it, we're leaving people in the dark. The room fell silent as the two men stared each other down. Finally, Layla, now the director of the GDRA, spoke up. Why not pilot the satellite integration in 1 or 2 hubs first? That way, we can measure its impact and make an informed decision. Both Elon and Jeff nodded, their expressions softening. Fine, Jeff said. Let's test it and see how it works. Elon smirked. Told you I'd win you over? Despite their occasional clashes, their mutual respect only grew stronger. They recognized that their differences were not a weakness but a strength, and they leaned into each other's expertise to drive the GDRA forward. As the GDRA expanded, it began to tackle challenges beyond natural disasters. One of its most groundbreaking initiatives was a program to address climate-related crises, from rising sea levels to extreme weather events. Elon and Jeff recognized that the root causes of these crises needed to be addressed, and they used their resources to fund research, develop innovative solutions, and advocate for global action. One of their most ambitious projects was the creation of eco-cities, sustainable urban developments designed to withstand the impacts of climate change. These cities combined renewable energy, green infrastructure, and advanced technology to create self-sufficient, resilient communities. The first eco-city was built in a coastal region that had been devastated by hurricanes. It featured solar panels, wind turbines, and desalination systems, as well as elevated housing to protect residents from flooding. The project was a massive undertaking, requiring collaboration between architects, engineers, and local communities. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Elon and Jeff once again stood together, their partnership on full display. This city is proof that we can adapt to the challenges of the future, Elon said, his voice filled with passion. It's a model for what's possible when we think big and work together. Jeff nodded, adding, this is more than just a city, it's a statement. A statement that we're not powerless in the face of climate change. That we have the tools and the will to build a better future. The EcoCity project garnered international acclaim, with leaders and activists hailing it as a blueprint for sustainable development. It also solidified Elon and Jeff's reputations as not just business leaders but visionaries committed to creating lasting change. Amidst their successes, both Elon and Jeff began to reflect on how far they had come, not just as individuals, but as partners. Their journey had taken them from rivals locked in a battle for dominance to allies united by a shared purpose. Along the way, they had learned to set aside their egos, embrace their differences, and focus on what truly mattered. One evening, as they sat in a cafe near the Resilience Hub, Jeff turned to Elon with a rare moment of vulnerability. "You know," Jeff said, swirling his coffee, "I never thought I'd say this, but working with you has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life." Elon raised an eyebrow, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Careful, Bezos. You're starting to sound sentimental." Jeff chuckled, shaking his head. "Don't get used to it. But seriously, I've learned a lot from you. About taking risks, thinking outside the box. You've pushed me to be better." Elon's smile widened. "And you've taught me the value of patience and planning. Not that I'll ever admit that in public." The two men laughed, the weight of their shared experiences evident in their camaraderie. For all their differences, they had found common ground in their desire to leave the world better than they had found it. As the GDRA celebrated its 10th anniversary, Elon and Jeff took the stage together one last time. The organization had grown beyond their wildest dreams, with a global network of resilience hubs, eco-cities, and disaster response teams. It had saved countless lives, rebuilt communities, and inspired a new generation of leaders. "This is not the end," Jeff said, addressing the audience. "It's a new beginning. The GDRA is proof that when we work together, there's no limit to what we can achieve." Elon nodded, his voice steady. "We've built something incredible here. But the work doesn't stop. The challenges we face are bigger than any one of us, and it's up to all of us to carry this mission forward." As the audience erupted into applause, Elon and Jeff exchanged a look of mutual respect and gratitude. They had come a long way from their days as rivals, and their partnership had changed not just their lives, but the world. The Global Disaster Relief Alliance entered its second decade as a beacon of hope for communities across the globe. Its successes were celebrated, from the resilience hubs in disaster-prone regions to the eco-cities that redefined sustainable living. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos had not only created an alliance but a global movement, proving that collaboration between visionaries could produce extraordinary results. As the GDRA grew, so did its ambitions. Elon and Jeff pushed their teams to think even bigger, tackling crises that seemed insurmountable. The organization began investing heavily in predictive technologies, using AI and machine learning to forecast disasters with unprecedented accuracy. This allowed governments and communities to prepare in advance, significantly reducing loss of life and damage. One such breakthrough came when GDRA scientists developed a system capable of predicting hurricanes weeks before they formed. Dubbed the Storm Sentinel, the technology combines satellite data, oceanic patterns, and atmospheric conditions to create early warnings. During its first year of deployment, the Storm Sentinel saved tens of thousands of lives, enabling mass evacuations and targeted aid deployment. Despite the GDRA's achievements, Elon and Jeff remained grounded. They spent much of their time visiting the communities their organization served, meeting with local leaders, and listening to the stories of survivors. These visits reminded them of why they had started the alliance in the first place. One particularly emotional visit took place in a coastal village in the Philippines, which had been devastated by a typhoon years earlier. Thanks to the GDRA's efforts, the village had been rebuilt with elevated housing, solar-powered energy systems, and a resilience hub that doubled as a community center. As Elon and Jeff toured the village, they were greeted by children who had been born after the typhoon, their laughter and energy a stark contrast to the devastation their parents had endured. An elderly woman approached them, her eyes brimming with tears. "Because of you," she said, her voice trembling, "we have hope again. My grandchildren have a future because of what you've done." Elon placed a hand on her shoulder, his normally stoic demeanor softening. "It's not just us," he said. "It's everyone who believed in this mission. And it's people like you who remind us why it matters." Jeff nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Thank you for letting us be a part of your story. It means more than you know." While the GDRA flourished, Elon and Jeff's partnership continued to evolve. Their dynamic had shifted from rivalry to respect, and their bond deepened as they worked together to overcome new challenges. But as time passed, They began to reflect on their individual legacies and what the future held. During a quiet evening at a GDRA research facility, Jeff brought up a subject that had been on his mind. "Elon," he said, swirling his glass of scotch, "have you ever thought about what happens when we're gone?" Elon raised an eyebrow, his gaze fixed on the stars outside the window. "You mean death? Or retiring? Because I don't plan on doing either anytime soon." Jeff chuckled, shaking his head. "I mean the GDR. We've built something incredible, but it can't depend on us forever. If we want this to last, we need to start thinking about the next generation of leaders." Elon nodded slowly, his expression pensive. "I've been thinking about that too. We've got people like Layla and Alex, but we need to make sure the GDRA is bigger than any one person. It has to be self-sustaining." The two men spent the rest of the evening brainstorming ways to ensure the GDRA's longevity. They discussed creating an endowment to fund its operations, establishing a leadership academy to train future directors, and expanding the advisory council to include voices from diverse backgrounds. By the end of the night, they had a plan, a blueprint for the future of the GDRA that would outlast them both. One of the most significant steps in securing the GDRA's future was the creation of the Eleanor Blake Fellowship, named after the late Dr. Eleanor Blake, whose story of resilience had inspired millions. The fellowship provided scholarships and mentorship opportunities for young leaders passionate about disaster relief and sustainability. The first cohort of fellows included individuals from every corner of the globe: a climate scientist from Kenya, an architect from Brazil, a paramedic from India, and a community organizer from the United States. Each fellow brought unique perspectives and skills, united by a shared commitment to making a difference. At the inaugural fellowship ceremony, Elon and Jeff addressed the group, their words a mix of encouragement and challenge. "You are the future of the GDRA," Elon said, his voice steady. "The world doesn't need followers, it needs innovators. People who are willing to take risks, to think differently, and to push the boundaries of what's possible." Jeff added, "But innovation isn't enough. Leadership is about more than ideas, it's about people. It's about building trust, inspiring others, and making decisions that benefit the greater good. We believe in you, and we can't wait to see what you'll accomplish." The fellows left the ceremony inspired, ready to carry forward the mission that Elon and Jeff had started. As the years went by, the GDRA's impact continued to grow. Its network of resilience hubs spanned the globe, its eco-cities set new standards for sustainable living, and its predictive technologies saved countless lives. But for Elon and Jeff, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades or the headlines. It was the knowledge that they had made a difference. During a visit to one of the GDRA's newest eco-cities, Elon and Jeff found themselves walking through a bustling marketplace. The city, once a flood-prone region, had been transformed into a thriving community, its residents empowered by the resources and opportunities provided by the GDRA. As they strolled through the market, they were approached by a young boy who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. He held up a small drawing, his eyes wide with excitement. "This is for you," the boy said, handing the drawing to Jeff. It depicted a futuristic city with flying vehicles, solar panels, and towering green skyscrapers. Jeff knelt down, examining the drawing with a smile. "Did you draw this?" The boy nodded. "Yes. I want to build cities like this when I grow up." Elon leaned over, glancing at the drawing. "Looks like you've got some big ideas. Maybe you'll be running the GDRA one day." The boy beamed, his face lighting up with pride. For Elon and Jeff, the encounter was a reminder that their work wasn't just about responding to disasters. It was about inspiring the next generation to dream bigger. As Elon and Jeff approached their 70s, they began to take a step back from the day-to-day operations of the GDRA. They remained active as advisors, but they entrusted the organization's leadership to a new generation of visionaries who had been mentored under their guidance. Their final public appearance together was at the 20th anniversary of the GDRA. Held in the same city where their partnership had begun, the event was a celebration of their achievements and a testament to the power of collaboration. The audience, filled with world leaders, activists, and everyday heroes, erupted into applause as Elon and Jeff took the stage. Their hair was grayer, their movements slower, but their presence was as commanding as ever. Jeff spoke first, his tone reflective. 20 years ago, we faced a crisis that could have torn us apart. But instead, it brought us together. We've shown the world that even the biggest challenges can be overcome when we work together. Elon added, this isn't just about us. It's about the people who believed in this mission, who gave their time, their energy, and their passion to make it a reality. The GDRA isn't just an organization, it's a movement. And it's one that will outlast all of us. As the audience rose to their feet, Elon and Jeff stood side by side, their rivalry long forgotten, replaced by a deep and abiding friendship. In the years that followed, the GDRA continued to thrive, its work carried forward by the leaders Elon and Jeff had mentored. Their story became a symbol of hope and unity, inspiring countless people to embrace the power of collaboration. And though Elon and Jeff eventually faded from the public eye, their legacy endured. Their names became synonymous with resilience, innovation, and the belief that even the fiercest rivals could come together to change the world. As the world faced new challenges, the lessons of the GDRA served as a guiding light. And in the quiet moments, when the stars shone brightly in the night sky, it was easy to imagine two visionaries looking down, proud of what they had built and the lives they had touched. The Global Disaster Relief Alliance had transformed from an ambitious initiative into an enduring global institution. It had weathered challenges, overcome obstacles, and evolved into a self-sustaining entity guided by the values of resilience, collaboration, and innovation. Its influence spanned every continent, and its work had saved millions of lives and empowered countless communities to build a brighter future. As Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos entered the twilight of their lives, they often reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. Their rivalry, once fueled by ambition and ego, had given way to a partnership rooted in mutual respect and shared purpose. They had proven that even the fiercest competitors could unite to achieve something greater than themselves. In their final years, Elon and Jeff lived quieter lives, stepping back from the public spotlight while remaining deeply involved in the GDRA as advisors. They became mentors to a new generation of leaders, passing on the lessons they had learned and ensuring that the GDRA's mission would continue to thrive. One of the GDRA's most significant milestones came with the establishment of the Global Resilience Institute, an international research and education center dedicated to advancing the principles of disaster preparedness and sustainable development. The institute, located in the heart of an eco-city, served as a hub for collaboration, bringing together scientists, engineers, policymakers, and community leaders to address the world's most pressing challenges. The opening ceremony was a grand affair, attended by dignitaries from around the world, as well as survivors whose lives had been transformed by the GDRA's work. Elon and Jeff, though frail with age, attended the event, their presence a reminder of the vision and determination that had made it all possible. As the keynote speakers, they addressed the audience with a mix of wisdom and humility. Jeff spoke first, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. When we started this journey, we had no idea where it would lead. We simply knew that we had to do something meaningful, something impactful. And what we've built together is a testament to the power of collaboration. The GDRA isn't just about responding to disasters, it's about building a world where we can thrive, no matter the challenges we face. Elon followed, his tone reflective yet hopeful. This institute is more than just a building. It's a commitment to the future, a future where innovation and compassion go hand in hand. We may not be here to see the full impact of what we've started, but we know it's in good hands. And that's what matters. The audience gave them a standing ovation, their applause filled with gratitude and admiration. For Elon and Jeff, it was a moment of profound fulfillment, a culmination of decades of hard work, sacrifice, and unwavering belief in the power of human ingenuity. As the years passed, Elon and Jeff's health began to decline. Their contributions to the GDRA became less frequent, but their legacy remained a guiding force. They spent their remaining days surrounded by family and friends, finding solace in the knowledge that their work had made a difference. One day, Elon invited Jeff to his ranch in Texas, a place where he often retreated to think and reflect. The two men sat on the porch, sipping coffee as the sun set over the horizon, casting the sky in hues of orange and gold. "You know," Elon said, breaking the silence. "I never thought we'd end up here, partners, allies. I always thought I'd outdo you in everything." Jeff chuckled, his laughter warm and genuine. "And I thought I'd leave you in the dust. Funny how life works out." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching as the stars began to emerge in the night sky. Finally, Jeff spoke again, his voice soft but firm. "We did good, Elon. Better than I ever imagined." Elon nodded, a rare moment of vulnerability in his usually stoic demeanor. "Yeah, we did." Their final contributions to the GDRA came in the form of letters addressed to the organization's future leaders. In these letters, they shared their hopes, dreams, and lessons learned, offering guidance to those who would carry the torch forward. Elon's letter, written in his characteristic direct style, urged the next generation to embrace bold ideas and take risks. "Don't be afraid to fail," he wrote. "Failure is just another step on the path to success. Dream big, think differently, and never stop pushing the boundaries of what's possible." Jeff's letter, reflective and thoughtful, emphasized the importance of collaboration and humility. "Leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room," he wrote. "It's about listening, learning, and lifting others up. Remember that the greatest achievements come from working together." The letters were read aloud at the GDRA's 25th anniversary gala, bringing many in the audience to tears. They were a final gift from the two men whose vision and determination had changed the world. When Elon Musk passed away at the age of 92, tributes poured in from every corner of the globe. His contributions to technology, space exploration, and humanitarian efforts were celebrated, and his legacy was immortalized in the work of the GDRA. A statue of Elon, jetpack in hand, was erected at the organization's headquarters, symbolizing his commitment to innovation and courage. Jeff Bezos followed a few years later, passing peacefully at the age of 94. His life's work was honored with a memorial in the city where the first resilience hub had been built. The inscription on the memorial read, "A visionary leader who believed in the power of unity to overcome any challenge." The GDRA continued to thrive, guided by the principles that Elon and Jeff had instilled. Its network of resilience hubs grew to include over 200 locations, its eco-cities became models for sustainable living, and its innovations in disaster response saved countless lives. The organization's work inspired a new generation of leaders, each carrying forward the mission with passion and determination. One of those leaders was Maya, the young girl who had once visited Eleanor Blake's statue in Lafayette Square. Now a prominent figure in the GDRA, Maya often spoke about how the stories of Eleanor, Elon, and Jeff had shaped her journey. During a speech at the Global Resilience Institute, Maya shared a message that encapsulated the spirit of the GDRA. Their story wasn't just about disaster relief, she said. It was about resilience, about believing that even in the face of adversity, we can create a better world. They showed us that no challenge is too great, no dream too ambitious, and no act of kindness too small. As the world continued to evolve, the impact of the GDRA was felt in ways that transcended its original mission. It had become a symbol of what humanity could achieve when driven by purpose, unity, and a relentless desire to make a difference. And though Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos were no longer present to witness the fruits of their labor, their legacy lived on in every life saved, every community rebuilt, and every dream that dared to take flight. In the quiet moments, when the stars shone brightly in the night sky, it was easy to imagine the two visionaries looking down with pride, their spirits intertwined with the mission they had started, a mission that would endure for generations to come.